does understand more on, does have a clear picture on what businesses.
Okay.
They are investment pieces where they are. That's basically what it is. But in our case, we have a scenario whereby you have different layers that every business that is in this has to grapple with. Now, the current government would have done handful in trying to alleviate a whole lot of that, because the case study a couple of years back where one of the local governments was then because they went out to hound the business. But I think we need to be the consensus effort that needs to be carried out on a daily basis to be able to shift the needle on that front. That's what I think.
All right. So when people talk about Rivers State, I mean, you are the president of the entrepreneur and you are the president of the entrepreneur. When people talk about Rivers State, look at it from an audience of the biggest oil producers in Nigeria. So people look at us as, oil money boys, right? They really do not see that potential. How fertile is Rivers State when it comes to investments and productivity? How fertile do you think Rivers State is?
Yeah, Rivers State it's very fertile. The state is very fertile when it comes to oil and gas. The state is very fertile when it comes to trade. When it comes to in every facet, it's very fertile. But there's no in the here. You tell the customers welcoming us, you find out that business would always reinvent in this country. We let the sector in this country on a monthly basis to be able to unlock these should have to more people to try of know that actually in your leg.
Okay, let me investors are investing in
so we now also to people speak when it happens with direct one-on-one and I'll answer what the administration can do. It is a passive economic and single go to web of the investor forum, you'll see all of the back and forth. But looking at it from a perspective, we need to clear to as much as it to get investment better in real estate. It goes back. It back to the fact. Mind offering for the government funds that being borrowed from one financial institution or the other. And immediately the financial institution finds out that there is kind of push from the community and that's the way all need is going to have it's one of those investments that we've lost. Over the years we've lost a whole lot of such investments. But what I think we should do as a state and as a people, we need to begin to come up with a clear-cut plan on how to drive and attract businesses. And I'll give it to the current administration that would have tried their best. But I think that same process needs to be followed through conscientiously. I'll give you a case in one of those cases. So it's from the entrepreneur industry that we went to Ethiopia to attract the Ethiopian air. But if you look at the Ethiopian air would have gone back to places. We do that constantly. You find out not just that Ethiopia, it would attract a whole lot of investment into the state. That's the thing. Now you have the administration. When you have in the past election financial times, I think that those ways from in recent times to high about this in the economic impact. But now the income government to slow on those levels of pressure on those. We must to tell our communities they don't have a business in the because they also are the business. They fast track and facilitate the joblessness in the state. That's why.
Okay, I'll ask for a measure about to ask this question. You said there were pushback between local governments in the state government and some community people. Now, given an administration a couple of days.
I don't really think that we proper look at from the balcony of we should be wake up and see that the intense role that this is being out. In my mind, the number one represented is the governor of the state. Okay. And the governor and the government need to see themselves as that. There is number one ambassadors of that business. When they begin to see themselves as the number one, they begin to see because have large potential to here what you call now have all whatever you think that we all do have such potential now the fact that we need to go get around, wrap our minds around what and how we need to get those potentials into reality. Okay. That's what is lacking. And that's why I think the incoming administration has a big shoes to fill. The incoming administration would need to drive on those, because if you
can I please pause you so we can go for that commercial break, and when we come back we'll talk about how we can solve some of those challenges.
All
right, thank you very much.
Stay with us. Nigeria Info. We'll be back.
Are you looking for a serene ambience to relax and unwind? Look no further.
headline news.
Conversation for those of you who are just joining in. I've been talking to Ibifiri Bobmanuel, who is the president, Rivers Entrepreneur and Investors Forum, and we've been talking about making Rivers State an economic hub for not just Nigeria, Africa at large, because my guests have just told me that Rivers State has got the potential to go beyond oil and gas into even other sectors and become very productive at it as well. All right, welcome back, Mr. Bobmanuel.
Yeah, thank you.
So I was going to ask the question before we went for that very long break. Sorry about that, by the way.
Sure.
How do we then begin to retrace our steps? Like I said earlier, a new government comes into play in about 6 days' time. How do we begin to retrace our steps to ensure that both companies that have left and companies intending to invest will choose River State, and thereby improving our employment status, and also the IGR of the state? How do we, let's say, overtake Lagos even at that when we talk about economic hub in Nigeria?
Okay, it's doable. It's something that could be achieved, but it has to be consensuous and it has to be deliberate. I give you instance of the efforts that were put in the past by this administration to woo the likes of Ethiopian Air and to woo investors from Charlton House, to River State. And if such efforts could be consistently embarked upon, that would really help in moving the needle. But not just in doing that, we need to come back and come up with a clear investment blueprint for the state. We need to begin to tell ourselves that, look, businesses are not our adversaries. Businesses in the state are our partners in progress, our partners in development. And in doing that, we need to come up with a single window for tax collection.
Okay.
A single window, when I mean a single window where you just go and you pay for everything across the board, including the local government, the communities, and all of that. In doing that, you can censor the excesses of the local government or the excesses of the communities at the same time. And from that central point, they can go out of the way. The state can take the responsibility through whichever channel they want and share those funds to the different agencies or communities that have a direct bearing. That's one way. But very importantly and key, we must begin to consciously create channels and openings for private participation in the economy of River State. I mean, conscientiously, we must wake up, come up with a blueprint that shows how the private participation should be able to be bettered into the economy. Because look, I keep seeing troubling cases where you talk about a government giving out a standing order to employ, for instance, 10,000. I think that is wrong. because the public sector does not have that responsibility to create jobs. The private sector is saddled with that responsibility to create jobs. But why we've not been able to get that sorted out, a blueprint on how to channel and how to challenge and engage the private sector to be able to play the role in the economy.
All right.
Now, if you look at the job statistics, you find out that in most of the statistics, even if I question a handful of those statistics that are thrown around, but you find out that in most of those statistics, River State and it's trending low when it comes to job creation. You know, as I've said loosely that I challenge some of those statistics. But we need to conscientiously encourage the private participation in creating those jobs. And in all of those sectors that we've identified, for instance, currently the River State is trying to employ in what you call in the teaching space, meaning the education, and they're trying to employ around what you call
the civil service generally.
Sector.
Okay.
I think the private sector is big on those spaces. What the government needs to do is to work with the private sector to see that they create that number of jobs. And for me, 10,000 jobs is just a drop in the ocean. If the government could work with the private sector, they could produce as much as they could create as much as 100,000 jobs per quarter. And it's not so difficult. I'll give you a simple scenario. Look at the case in study where you have Owando going into partnership with Lagos State to create to invest in the transport sector, meaning providing BRT buses. Now, Owando is coming in with 12,000 BRT buses, and each of those BRT buses provides you with a minimum of 6 different job opportunities, because they're going to have drivers, they're going to have conductors that would run shifts, and they're going to have ground staff and all of it. If you multiply that times 12,000, that's 22,000 jobs are just going to be spinned off just like that. And what the state government simply needs to do is to have a minimal investment in that whole project of maybe 20-30%, which might not be more than maybe 5-10 billion. But the good thing about that 5-10 billion is it is a lot better than investing in employing 10,000 teachers, because if you employ 10,000 the way you want to employ, you're going to bloat your recurrent.
Yeah.
And when you bloat your recurrent, you'll be paying 500,000 to the same set of people for the rest of eternity, which the government does not have. We don't truly have that much. But if you encourage the private sector to come in and play their own legitimate role in the economy, you find out that such jobs, you would not be under some kind of pressure to begin to go out of your way to employ. But the private sector would employ those people. You would take those minimal investments, and those minimal investments would eventually produce dividends on an annual basis. So it's a win-win, and you have to pay taxes from them. So I think we need to begin to put our thinking caps and begin to look at things differently and approach governance from an economic point of view differently. That's what we need to do.
All right. So in summary, because we've come to the end of this conversation for now, because we've got another commercial break coming up. So what would be your final word, as we try to push this conversation for development? What would you say to the stakeholders in every state?
Well, I would just say that the government should take our time to take this thing about the economy of the state seriously, and to take private participation in the economy of the state more seriously. When they begin to take such private participation seriously, we will not find ourselves in a scenario whereby, just like the last administration made a mistake by letting the balls down, where an investment like the Dangote Refinery that was about 19 billion, that would have provided a minimum of 150,000 jobs slip off our hands. That would have been a lot. That would have added a lot to the economy of River State. But such opportunities are bound to come the way of River State. But how are we going to manage it? Not until we endeavor to come up with an economic blueprint that has to do with, that encourages private participation, we'll keep finding ourselves going round in circles the way we've been going in the past.
All right, thank you very much for your time. And if you're listening, I've been talking to Ibifiri Bobmanuel, who is the president of the Rivers Entrepreneur and Investors Forum. Once again, I do appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do have yourself a wonderful evening. I will take one or two calls, and when I'm done, we'll go for a commercial break. After that, the major news at 6. After the major news at 6, I'll come back and we'll have the open season, and we'll talk about all the things that we have reeled out on the show for today, from the big headlines to the 4 o'clock conversation, which had to do with the APC and the State Election Tribunal, and now making River State an investment hub or an economic hub. We'll talk about that as well. Open season, remember, immediately after the major news, I beg your pardon, the major news at 6. All right. And that being said, 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. These are the two numbers to call now. I take a call. 1 minute, please, and nothing more than that. 92.3.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. What's your name?
Yeah, following your trajectory of discussion on the economic issues and relation to real estate, I would have said that rather than all the bridges that are going to weaken, we have something like kind of refinery. It knows to it that Dangote has built and we potential all the people things. Now, the money that Dangote build up without one investors is looking at the game.
Right.
You know, the state will benefit more, and from the build one of the bridges, more than the bridges that you built. So that your governance today is more of managerial, not just political politicians who play politics for the nation and for the generation.
All right, thank you very much. I'll let you go. Thank you for your point at 93. What channel are you calling from? Yes, I can hear you. What's your name? Are you calling in from?
Yeah, my name is Prince.
All right, Prince, we've got 1 minute. Quickly, please.
Actually, to some extent, I don't agree with that. Your guess.
Okay.
I'm not favorite. At least I have some little businesses going on here. I actually believe that the refinery was not tempered. It means Dangote has the land somewhere existing, whichever way, and for whichever. I don't think there's anybody at all that can maintain with any investment that comes in except the owner. Okay, actually, to my left.
Can I ask a question?
Maybe before the issue of background or whoever the woman is, this and that, or before you must pay all this, must pay all that required. Before some boss come in and say you must pay all machine or whichever. So your guest say that maybe local government chairman, the governor, and
you should ask yourself, why did Bolsonaro's relocate their headquarters to Lagos? That's the American tape will continue. Stay tuned.